Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining me on this morning talk. Hey guys, I wanted to talk about something. I don't think I've delved into this before on this channel, but I did a post on Facebook yesterday and I found, how important it is because, wow, it's unbelievable. Nobody knows this information. But so this video is going to be about Yeshua and his lost years, you could call it, or his missing years. As those of you know that have read the Bible, the New Testament, you know that there's a large time gap in when Yeshua is a child and then when he comes back to the Holy Lands. And that big gap in time, folks, it's very important. And let's just say it wasn't like nobody knew what happened during that time. It's just that purposely wasn't put in the Bible. And there's many reasons for that, and we're going to delve into some of those. And just so you guys know, I call our brother Yeshua. I don't call him by the Roman caricature name, the character that they created, because it's a disrespect to him. And the character that they created off of the master teacher Yeshua, who is our brother in the realm that we come from, it is in my opinion, very disrespectful what they did to him and this religion that they built around his teachings, but they ended up adding quite a bit to it, and they hid a lot of it from the book and other things. So, just like his missing years, or traveling years, you could call it. So, for those that don't understand this, and of course, this is if you only read the Bible. See, that's the problem. Most people that argue with me on this or that don't know this information, it's because all they've read is the Bible, the New Testament. That's it. Like they have no clue about any of this other information because they've been told by their church, by their pastors, that this is information you're not supposed to delve into because it's not canon. Well, you know what canon is, folks, right? Canon is the power brokers of the time of the early church, the synagogues, and the government, when they convened the Council in Nicaea. And just so you understand, it wasn't just the Council in Nicaea. They had multiple meetings and councils that they had. And the Bible was not put together all at once. It was, multiple times it was changed, added to, taken away from. And it still is to this day. So I just want to clear that up because some people think when I mention the Council of Nicaea that I'm saying that the whole Bible was completely put together at that time. No, but that was when they started deciding what books would be in it, what information would be in it, what wouldn't, how they were going to translate, and, and all this other stuff. So, but that's where they got together and they created this Jesus Christ character that most of you call Yeshua. So, I'm just going to dive right in, folks, because I've got about 20 minutes here before I get to work. So for those of you that don't know, Yeshua traveled the Silk Road, and he went as far east as Japan. Now, he had this uncle, Joseph of Arimathea. He's mentioned in the Bible. He was the one who provided the tomb for Yeshua's body, right? Well, that wasn't just some nice good Samaritan. That was his uncle. And Joseph was a very rich man. See, Yeshua did not grow up in a poor household, folks. That is a misconception and a misteaching. He grew up in a very wealthy family. His uncle was one of the richest men on earth at the time. His uncle had his own fleets of ships. His uncle had caravans that traded the spice route. His uncle had caravans that went all the way up into Ireland. His ships traveled the Mediterranean and all the way up the coast of France and such. So you got to understand, what you've been told, a lot of it or most of it is BS, folks. And there's a reason behind that. So Yeshua, he traveled the spice road with his uncle. And when he was traveling, he learned and he taught in ashrams, in Buddhist temples, Hindu temples, all throughout the East. He was learning the mystic teachings of those orders. He was very insightful and he was very loved wherever he went. Yeshua is documented, folks, in ashrams throughout the path of the spice road and such. He's even in the Himalayas. They have documentation of him. Now, there's one thing you got to understand. They didn't call him Yeshua. They called him Isa. But Isa was Yeshua. They know him well. And like I said, they respected him very much. He was a very powerful master teacher. He learned the arts of Reiki in Japan. He learned the teachings of Buddhism, of Hinduism, and of course the mystic teachings of those orders, the teachings that taught him how to manipulate energy in this realm. He probably sat down with some of the greatest yogis of the time. But that wasn't just it, folks. He did a lot more traveling than that, and he collected, taught, and learned a lot more than that too. Now, according to many Gnostic writings, he was in the order of the Essenes with his good friend John the Baptist. And this is what really stirred up the controversy on my page. Mary Magdalene. Oh yes, you know the one that she's alluded to as being a prostitute in the New Testament? Yes, that Mary Magdalene. Well, folks, Mary Magdalene was a priestess in the order of the Essenes, because the Essenes allowed women to be in their priesthood, unlike the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Those orders did not allow women to have any powers as a priestess, any positions in those orders. The Essenes were more of a mystical order, and they were more of a esoteric order. You could call them the hippies of the time. But Mary Magdalene was in that order. And not just her. Yeshua's sister, Yeshua's mother, Mary, they were also in the order of the Essenes. See, this was a family thing. This wasn't just... Yeshua wasn't the only teacher from that family, folks. It was a family line. It was what they did. Back then, folks, wealthy people were able to do these things because they weren't as overburdened with labor to survive. Wealthy people that had animals and slaves or workers, and I'm not saying Yeshua's family had slaves, just understand that. I'm just saying through his uncle, they had vast wealth. So this allowed for Yeshua and his sister and, his family members to join these orders, these mystic orders. Well, in the order of the Essenes, Yeshua was in the school. So was John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene. Well, Mary Magdalene, and this is according to Gnostic teachings, Mary Magdalene and Yeshua became a couple. Yes, his consort. You could say his wife. I know this is very controversial, folks, but you got to understand, there are a bunch of books in the Nag Hammadi that are very explicit about this detail. I mean, it's not, in the way that they write it, it's not like this is some like, we're going to drop a hidden bomb on. No, it's like they talk about it and explain it like it's just common knowledge. Like Mary Magdalene was Yeshua's companion. You're starting to understand a little bit why the early churches and the synagogues, because the synagogues had a hand in the creation of the Bible too, folks. You know, the orders that Yeshua despised, they hated this. That this young teacher from a rich family who was gaining followers with his teachings that did not go along with their doctrine, and he was speaking out against it, and he was called rabbi by many. And as you know, those of you that understand, rabbis have wives, so just so you know. Well, in the school of the Essenes, Yeshua and his mother and his sister and Mary Magdalene, they ended up traveling to Egypt also. They traveled to Egypt to learn in the mystery schools. And some of you would be questioning, well, what does that mean, the mystery schools? Well, folks, the mystery schools are the Hermetic, the teachings of Thoth that were passed down for tens of thousands of years in Egypt. Ancient teachings. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth. If you've never read them, you need to. Well, they also traveled to Egypt to learn these mystery school teachings. See, Yeshua didn't just follow Jewish teachings, or you could call it the Old Testament books. He traveled the world and he gathered teachings from every major mystic order on earth, folks. I mean, Yeshua was the quintessential master teacher. He even traveled as far as Ireland with his uncle on his trading expeditions. And he even sat down and learned with the Druidic order in northern France, in the British Isles. And folks, before you attack me on all this and just say I'm making up all this stuff, there are actually waypoints in all of these places. There are data points that were left behind. There's crumbs you can follow in all of these areas. It is well known that Reiki was developed from the teachings of Yeshua. That there was the guy that master, I don't want to say his name because I'm going to mess it up right now. I don't want to be disrespectful, but let's just say the master that founded Reiki, energy healing, and the practice, he got this from Yeshua, from the laying of the hands, from the healing of the hands. Now, I said earlier that Yeshua was learning Reiki, and yes, because folks, there were people in the Far East that were doing energy healing through Tai Chi and other things. And the reason I said Reiki is because nowadays Reiki is the most common form of energy and healing by the hands and such, by the touch, by energy. You can go read the guy that founded Reiki, and he alludes to the fact that he developed this practice from Yeshua. And as you know, in Japan, Christianity was not allowed. So he had to do this in an underhanded way. But there were a lot of practices in the East that did energy healing. So he kind of hid it under a shroud of that. So I hope I'm explaining this okay. But I just want, the picture I'm trying to paint for you folks, though, is this. Yeshua, at least according to the Gnostics, he had his wife, Mary Magdalene. Sometimes they're called the three Marys that he traveled with. His mother Mary, his sister Mary, and his wife Mary. And he traveled with his uncle. Some of these travels were with his family members who were learning the mystic orders around the world, and some of these were with his uncle on his expeditions, his merchant expeditions. But regardless, Yeshua was learning with all of the mystic teachers around the world. And oh yes, folks, let's not forget another order that he has connections with is Zoroastrian. The order of Ahura Mazda. Zarathustra, the teacher of that order. That was a very powerful religion of the time, of Yeshua's time. In fact, it's alluded to in the Bible a few times. They never mention Zoroastrianism in the Bible because Zoroastrianism was it was actually a monotheistic religion. It was monotheistic before the Israelites were monotheistic. And they teach of the god Ahura Mazda, and then there's the bad guy, oh my gosh, what is it? Ahriman? Yeah, Ahriman's like the devil in Zoroastrianism. And then Ahura Mazda is the god of light, of fire, the good God, the creator of all. Well, in the Bible, folks, there's interesting things about Zoroastrianism. Cyrus the Great was called a man of God, a champion of God, by the Israelites. Well, let's say the Judeans, because he freed the Judeans. The 10 tribes were already gone at this time, but when the Judeans were held captive by the Babylonians, and Cyrus the Great, the Assyrian king, freed them, there's parts in the Old Testament where they put praise on Cyrus the Great, that he was a great man of God and all this. Well, Cyrus the Great, folks, was a Zoroastrian. His god was Ahura Mazda. And it's interesting to note, in the manger story of the baby Yeshua, the three sages from the east that come and bring gifts, folks, those 3 sages were priests of the Zoroastrian order. They were called sages. That's who came to bring gifts. Now, this isn't taught to you either, I get it. And I know all this sounds crazy. There's probably a lot of you right now that are just poo-pooing everything I'm saying, but dig into this. Research Zoroastrianism. And you'll see the connections in the New Testament and the Old Testament to Zoroastrianism. And that's because at the time, folks, between about 500 BC, well, let's say 600 BC, and the time of Yeshua, Zoroastrianism was very popular religion in the Mediterranean area, along the Silk Road, through Persia. Very powerful religion of the time. So it lent a lot of influence to a lot of these mystic teachers in these early religions. There is a lot of stuff in the Bible that can be alluded to the Zoroastrian teachings. So, this picture that I painted for you is one of Yeshua traveling the world as a master teacher, learning from all the mystic teachers around the world, various religions and belief systems. And folks, he was so gifted, he was able to learn from all these masters, to learn this powerful energy healing. He was able to learn how to cast out demons. He learned how to manipulate the quantum field, folks. And when he claims that he's the Son of God and the Son of Man, he is correct. See, he's the Son of Man, folks, because he's one of us. He's our brother. He came from the realm we come from. He was made into a deity by religion, but folks, he was a master teacher. And he came to try to wake us up to what this realm is. And when he was called the Son of God, of course he was the Son of God, as we all are the sons of God, the sons and daughters of God, folks. We are all fractals of the source, of the prime creator, the creator of all, whatever you want to call God. We are all fractals of that. And he understood this. And he understood the quantum field on a level that 99.9% never will. And he understood the connection with source that we all have, that it's within, not without. That you didn't need to go to a church or a synagogue to connect with God, with the all. He was trying to teach this, folks. And he understood that the Old Testament God was the devil. He understood that too, and he tried to teach that also. He told the Sadducees and the Pharisees, don't you know that your father is the devil? Folks, if you delve into the Nag Hammadi, the Gnostic writings, which a lot of those were the writings of the Essenes, into the Dead Sea Scrolls, you start digging into these other books that were not put in the Bible, you start understanding the bigger picture here. And if anything, I have more respect for Yeshua than I ever did when I was caught up in the whole religious, narration of the story. The story, their version, that's missing all the info and all of the understanding of who Yeshua was, that they deified him. Now, folks, in a roundabout way, we are all deities. We are all immortal spirits. We are all one with God. So, technically, yes, Yeshua was a deity. But see, they turned him into this. They tried to basically say that he was the creator of all, incarnate in a human form. Him, the only one, though. Here, that's the thing. Nobody else, just Yeshua. They tried to deify him on that level. Well, Yeshua was trying to teach that we are all one with the Father, with the God, the creator of all. That we are all connected to it. That we are all deities. Remember he said, don't you know that the kingdom of heaven is within? Folks, see, what religion has tried to do is separate you from the Father, from the all. And honestly, the creator of all is not a father. It's it's the divine masculine and the divine feminine in its entirety. But they tried to place a building, preachers, teachers, in between you and the Father. They tried to control what humanity could access and learn. And a lot of it was to manipulate money and resources out of people. People would bring their best animals for sacrifice to atone for their sins. Folks, that was just so the priest could eat and live high off the hog, so to speak. No pun intended. That's all that was. That wasn't for God. The creator of all, the source energy, doesn't need animal fat and animal sacrifice. However, we do know those gods of old, those Anuna, those watchers, they did need flesh and sacrifice and use humans to collect that for them. We know that. But folks, Yeshua was actually, in my opinion, so much greater than he's given credit to. And they've tried to separate you from the knowledge that he brought. They tried to change the facts and hide the facts from you. For those of you that don't believe me, folks, I'd say dig into the Nag Hammadi. Dig into the Apocrypha writings. Dig into, do some research on his travels around the world. And you'll find that he left crumbs all over the world. There's, like I said, research the East. You'll find, research Isa, I-S-S-A. That was what he went by when he traveled the Far East. Research all that, folks. You'll start filling in the gaps. And then you're going to start seeing this vast picture that's been kept from you. From those of you that have only been taught the New Testament, right? And just be prepared to have your mind blown, folks. Now, a lot of people say that I blaspheme Yeshua because I talk about the fact that we are one with him, that he's our brother, that, you know, he was no greater than us, that he was just trying to teach us, that he understood, he learned, he did the work. And he was trying to teach us these cosmic, universal teachings. He was trying to teach us that love is the most powerful force in the universe. He was trying to teach us that we're all connected to God. He was trying to teach us that we can heal each other, ourselves and others, that we can cast out demons and negative entities, that we perhaps could even move mountains or do greater than him. These are all things he taught, folks. So I would highly question anything that's in the New Testament if I were you, because most of the books in the New Testament, folks, were written well after Yeshua went back home from where we came from. Most of those books in the New Testament were written by, not even by his disciples, that followed him. They were later on by their scribes and such after they passed. It was all secondhand knowledge, folks. You've got to understand all this, folks. It wasn't like they were writing down. They weren't following Yeshua and writing down this stuff as it happened. But you've all been taught that. But just like you've all been taught that Moses was writing down things as it happened, and, you know, and all the way back to, like, you know, Genesis, you know, right? Which we all know that's BS. And any of you that have read the cuneiform tablets, like the Atrahasis or Numa Elish, Epic of Gilgamesh and such, you understand that Genesis was taken as an amalgamation of those stories. So, I've got to roll, guys, but I hope you got some out of this. And for those of you that laugh at this, fine, man, whatever. Ignore whatever I got to say. It don't really affect me, or I don't really care. But I'll tell you what. Those of you that want to go down a deep rabbit hole, you do this research. And I want to hear, I'd love to hear you come back and tell me what you found out. You may find some stuff that I didn't even know. But you will find that he had a wife, Mary Magdalene. She was not a prostitute. In fact, she was a priestess of the Essenes, of the order of Melchizedek. That's what the Essenes were. They were carrying on the ancient order of Melchizedek from ancient times. And you'll find that Yeshua's whole family was involved in the order, okay? And that his uncle was very wealthy. And that Yeshua was in a wealthy family. He was not a poor person, folks. Now, he humbled himself and he didn't have much to do with earthly needs, right? With material things, obviously. But it's kind of like and I'm not saying that he's like a hippie, okay, folks? But I'm just saying, imagine this. A really rich family, and then they have that one wayward son that is more into spiritual things, and, you know, and he leaves all the riches of his family behind, and he goes and decides to go, you know, move to South America and learn with shamans in the jungles and doing mystic journeys and doing ayahuasca and his, you know, and stuff like that. But the difference was that Yeshua's family supported him. But I'm just giving you the idea that, look, like, Yeshua wasn't about the riches. It was about the learning, the teaching, the traveling, okay? But he was able to do that because he was from a wealthy family, folks. Back then, you couldn't do that kind of stuff. You would have been one of the workers on the caravans. You would have been one of the people working on the ships of Joseph. You wouldn't have been able to spend time in the ashrams and the temples and such throughout the world. You wouldn't have been able to do all that. You would have been expected to work. You wouldn't have had that time to do that. But he traveled and he was able to do all these things, folks. And thank God, because he brought a lot of enlightenment to this realm. He was trying to teach us, folks. And so you accept what I've said or don't, but I would rather you research it yourself. At the very least, I hope I've given you some interesting things to look into. I know I glossed over a lot of this, but the information's out there, folks. Do your research. Figure out how to do these things. Like, figure out how to research these things. And that's the most powerful way that you can learn these, is by doing them yourself, by doing the research yourself. So, anyways, folks, I got to roll. I really appreciate you guys. Hit me up if you want to donate some money towards the future of ETM. $25 will get you a half an hour time with me on Zoom one-on-one. $50 will get you an hour, and we can book longer times if you'd like. Most of the bookings I actually do are typically 2 hours. So we can chat about anything. We can debate about anything, whatever you want to do. You want to teach me what you know? I love those conversations. I have a few regulars that I look forward to it, because some great people, and a lot of times they're teaching me more than I'm probably teaching them. So it's fantastic, because sometimes people have all this knowledge and their research on all this stuff, but there's nobody to talk to. Because if you talk to your coworkers or your family, they think you're crazy. And if you go against religious beliefs and their governmental views and all this, they get really upset about that. So the cool thing is that, hey, I can talk about any subject you want, and I'm not judging you, and I enjoy the conversations. And we can go down any rabbit hole you want, because I'm not afraid to talk about any of that stuff, folks. So my time for your donation is what we can exchange, and that can help build ETM, but more importantly, build connections and friendships. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys. I will talk to you later.